guys, so we need to talk about electrolytes again because, well, I just had a male client who was peeing a lot during the middle of the night. Come to find out, he's doing a high-fat ketogenic carnivore diet, but as soon as he upped his salt intake, he started peeing. Now that makes sense because sodium makes you hold on to water, but not only that, he had upped his potassium. All right. So first, this individual, his GFR went down, electrolytes out of whack. Then he ups his sodium and potassium, feels better at first, and then start feeling bad by having to pee. Now, some people don't even calculate how much sodium, potassium. So when I ask them in consultations, they really aren't sure. They got to go run, check the bottle, and be like, oh, I take this much. You guys, there's a reason why I say salt your food it's from 5 to 10 grams. It's around a teaspoon. And it really does matter on how much you sweat. That really plays a huge role. Now we're getting out of summer and we're going into fall, winter. So people are going to be sweating a lot less. So the demand of sodium is much lower. You have to realize that when you're eating a ketogenic or carnivore diet, you are dropping your carbs, which are making you hold on to water, sodium. And these are the things that your body's holding on to sodium. You guys are taking too much sodium or you're not getting enough potassium and it will hold on to potassium without the sodium. Your electrolytes get out of whack. And I was also explaining to you guys that when you're eating 2 pounds of beef on a carnivore diet, then you're having too much iron. So your minerals really get out of whack. You have too much iron. You're not balanced with copper, zinc, and also calcium. These are the types of things that I think that might be happening to some individuals. Now I know that Frank Tufano talked about not wanting to be carnivore anymore. And I think I want to do a video about that he is just sort of confirming and solidifying that when these things aren't done correctly, they can frack you up. But if they're done properly, they can be really amazing. Now, some people in my comment section were like, oh, a carnivore diet's so stupid. It's actually not. It's really brilliant because a lot of people with diverticulitis, a lot of people with mast cell activation, they do really, really, really well on a carnivore diet. And then eventually we try to microdose their plants back up and totally stop overeating red meat and start taking down the amount of protein and using things like kidney and thymus and not so much pure red meat, but then also eating things like liver to get high amounts of copper also in thymus. So, and of course you need a copper and zinc balance. You also need vitamin C, which is going to come a lot in liver, the form of liver. And because people are just, Frank said something I believe. People aren't telling you the truth. You get all these accolades. Everybody's like, I love what you're doing. It's like people become obsessed over these diets, like these mono sort of one thought thinking on how to implement these diets. Like just eat red meat, you're going to get a lot of potassium, which you do, but it's not enough. And then you're going to get enough sodium, which then it's not enough. And then people begin to oversalt their foods. Then they have problems peeing at night. They start to have I think it's called hyperkalemia. And you start to have heart palps and heart issues from just eating too much salt, which some people, when they're having things like a histamine mast cell or diverticulitis or any type of itises, they cut out all of the other spices and they start consuming too much salt because of course it makes the food taste tasty and savory and tasty, especially in the meats. So I hope this is just a quickie to be very careful to balance your sodium, potassium, which I really recommend citrate over bicarbonate just for the safety of the amount of citrate that you're able to have without the issues with the kidneys, the stress on the kidneys. Bicarbonate, obviously you have to do much lower amounts, especially with chlorides, which are also quite dangerous. When you don't take in enough potassium, you also risk issues with not enough oxygen to the heart, and too much potassium can stop the heart. So when people are like taking these keto chow and these electrolyte supplements, it's so not good for you. Really got to try to get it from real food, Like I say, meat broth, not bone broth, because bone broth people are having really bad histamine reactions to, and also people who've got issues with oxalate dumping. Don't do bone broth. Do meat broth, and even with that, the way you make that broth, if you've got mast cell activation, histamine, SIBO, leaky gut, candida, whatever, y'all have to be careful even how you make that, because the bacterial overload that gets on that into that broth when you're cooking it, or if you're putting it in the refrigerator and you're eating it as leftovers. Leftovers are the worst for people who have mast cell activation, but I think I want to do a full video on that. I also want to talk about Sarah attempting to possibly put rice in. She put it in for a day. It didn't work for her. So she's back to full carnivore, high fat. She wants to try to implement more plants and get more diversity. I'm going to do more videos about microdosing plants back into your diet, but still remaining mostly high fat carnivore. That's what I do right now. I'm a avivore, which is an avocado carnivore. Now on the occasion, if I'm out to eat with friends and I have some broccoli or some cauliflower, that's fine. But on the daily, it's animal fat and animal protein. Animal fat first. So you've got pork lard, beef tallow. You have leaf lard, which is also just as good as suet. A lot of people are eating suet. Don't do well on suet, but they do well on leaf lard. Butter, if you don't have a histamine intolerance to it, because of course it's high histamine, although it has so much good nutrient density to it. Also egg yolks, but again, that can be high histamine for people with leaky gut. Now, I just want to do a quick video that you guys have to be very, very, very careful not to eat too much salt. Don't oversalt, especially when you don't balance it with potassium. Don't eat too much red meat, because you can get an iron overload, especially you men who do not menstruate, or women who are postmenopausal. It's very, very dangerous to eat a lot of red meat without bloodletting. You know what I mean? If you don't have your electrolytes in balance, all that iron can overload, and then the copper dysregulation, the wrong ratios of iron, copper, and zinc might be causing more of a downregulation of your diamine oxidase, and then you don't heal from the leaky gut and the SIBOs that you're trying so hard to heal from. That's a quickie. I'm going to do a full video on Frank Tufano, which I actually have no problem with Frank. I don't really watch his channel. I think he's very smart and has a lot of good information, and all the other drama stuff, I just leave it out. I just don't watch it. It's like not my problem. I just take the good out of what he does and I just leave the rest. But I feel bad for him to have to go off. He's tried really, really, really hard to push the carnivore diet. And he was talking about having liver issues and having an iron overload. And this is what I'm talking about, how important it is to get your minerals on point. And don't be eating nuts on keto. Like, a lot of people don't realize how much nuts can downregulate your iron. So you don't want to have too low iron or too high iron. You want to have your electrolytes on par. You don't want to have too much red meat. You want to diversify and rotate. Now I gotta go see my boy Thunder, and I'm out. Peace.